Paint markers on Gundam. Quick, easy, but any good? Let's see. Well, paint markers on Gundam, and they work pretty good. Depending on what it is, if it's the rubbery stuff, it might rub off. But for everything else, it works pretty good. You just have to let it dry before you start recoating, especially with the metallics. But it is just like paint by numbers. So I'm just going to come around and I want to basically pick out, we want to just basically simply bring out details that we know are going to show in between the armor and where we're going to be able to see on the foot. And we're primarily going to be using the markers. And I want to see how far we can push the markers even into the weathering because they are acrylic and water-based will smear them. So I'm basically just going to go around here and I'm going to pick out, I have three different types. I have a really light aluminum, which is really like the lightest of them. And I have a gunmetal, which is a little bit darker. And then I have a dark aluminum, which is even darker than that. So between the three, we can get some really nice tones. And I'm just going to carry on and pick out as much detail on this leg as I feel I need to. I'm going to start at the bottom. So you can see here on this little knuckle here on the ankle that I've got like the silver on the inside and then a bit of that darker, which is the, I think that's the dark aluminum, which looks like a bit of a, like a bronzish sort of color mixed in there. So I'm going to start with the feet here, and that's where I'm going to start with all these little details that we can see poking through and get the same effect going on with each leg. I'm just going to give a basic swipe. I'm going to leave a lot of that black underneath if I can. Some of it, because it'll look tarnished a bit as we go. There we go. Just let that dry. Now I'm going to spin around this. Just give it a quick coat. Now, I would imagine if you wanted to get more involved, getting a base coat on this would probably be a good idea just for adhesion, because if you had a primer coat on here, it would definitely adhere better. But it'll stick. It's acrylic paint. And you can see, just want to go around there and pick up that ankle. And just leave those recessed details dark for now. And then we'll go over and pick out what we want with the bronze sort of one. Get the back of those. Get the bottom. One swoop. We're just keeping it simple. That's all we're doing. Just laying down the base colors of the metal so that we can come in with the bronze, because everything shows up a little bit better once you've got the silver on it. Right. Just start building up the layers. So I'm just going to go in with the dark, and I'm just going to sort of just let it touch a high spot there. And you just sort of see it brings out, just a different tone. I'm just touching it there and there. That's it. But it just sort of suggests that there's different metals going on, right? A little thing in there. All that, dude. So just that sort of thing. That's all I was really doing. I'm just going to get in there again, and I'm just going to dab a little bit here and there. I'm not being precise. I'm not being sloppy, but I'm not being super, crazy. You can if you want to, but at this scale, you've got some size to work with. So I think I'll do the same in this one here. Let's get in there, and I'm just going to pick up those little ribs. Maybe I'll even get down there on the side a little bit. All right. There. It just sort of highlights it a little bit. Once the armor's on and it's bent, it should give it the, nice illusion. So, I mean, we're not going crazy, but from just the bare plastic to this is, going to add that much more detail that we're going to want to see. And I really think it works really well. And I think it's helping add an extra dimension to it. And the nice thing is if you feel like you don't like it or you screwed something up, you can just take some Fantastic, some Windex on a, paper towel or a face cloth or a Kleenex, and just wipe it right off. No probs. All right. So there you go. Or IPA. IPA would work too. Okay, I think I'm going to start working on the rest of this armor cleaned up. So we've got our pieces cut from the runner, and what we're going to do now is basically clean up all of these leftover nubs that we have. So we want to do as clean as possible so we're not doing a ton of filing and sanding. And I just want to get right up next to it. Nice, and just take it off. Look at that, beautiful. And just get right in there. Take it off. Look at that, nice, eh? Get in here, take it off. So I'm just going to clean all these pieces up. We've got some panel lining already on the inside, so they're pretty well ready to start going. Now on these ones, you can see the chamfer to the edge. We want to make sure that we're riding that chamfer, right? And if we leave a little nub on the edge, we can file that off. So we want to make sure we're riding that edge. Nice. Ride that edge right there. And just take that right off, just like that. Nice. And the more you do, the easier it gets. So I'm going to start over here and work my way across the pile until I've got all these parts cleaned up. And then we can start putting on all the armor. And then we can start putting on all our decals. Now I'm just using some gray enamel panel liner on these. And I just want to get these, these interior details to show up. Ooh. And then we'll give them a little bit of a clean. While those are drying, we can take a look at the backpack. So the backpack, we just hit with a flat black to sort of mat it out. And then we just picked out some details in the underneath part so that just you get the suggestion of more detail. And I think it'll pop. I can get this thing to pop out. Yeah, there we go. So we can see some of that edge and that fin if you wanted to, get this so that it pops out the way. There you go. So you can kind of see that we've, just sort of picked out stuff that catches the light, right? And just when you do have it closed, I think it looks just that little bit much better. So that can sit to the side now too. Right on. Well, we're starting to lessen our list. So yeah, here we go. We're getting into the fun stuff. The decals are going to be what's going to really take us the whole evening, I think, tonight. But I'm really anxious to get the rest of these panels popped into place so that we can start placing our decals and then carry on with our weathering, because I don't want to go on any further with the weathering until I've got all the decals on. And then we can decide what we're going to scratch and damage as far as the markings go. And we can carry on with the weathering, I think. But yeah, so far so good. Now to clean up our panel liner on our panels, we are just using, in this case it's testers, but it's just an enamel thinner, or mineral spirits would work. And we're just using very, very small amount on a cotton bud. I like to take the cotton bud, I like to just give it a little dip so that it's wet with the thinner. Then what I like to do is just take Kleenex and I just squeeze the excess quick. And then I'm just gonna basically clean up any of that excess wash so that we have a nice distinct line without any yuck. Just like that. All right. So I'm just going to clean these quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all these panels glued on, tacked on, pushed on, and then we're going to start locating our decals. I want to get all the markings on. So push, push, shove, shove. We keep going. Here's a good one. We'll get this all cleaned up here. So let's get this clean out a bit. I don't want to clean it all out, but I want to leave some. I'm going to run in a vertical direction because anything I do leave behind will look like streaking, so it's okay. Okay, here we go. We've got both legs armored. So got one side sort of started with the weathering and one side completely clean. But we're ready to start. Let me get the arms armored and we can start with all of our markings, and there's a lot of them. Well, we're armored, and I am very happy that we did what we did. I'm glad with happy with the result, especially for where we're at. So there's always going to be touch-ups and detail, but I think for just adding that bit of little bit of extra little shine and sheen here, and I think it really did the trick. We've got the side there. Let me see if I can get this popped open just quick. We can see the little side jets that we've got in there, and they're silver and stuff. So I think that really adds to that detail, because I think these I'm going to have open. But I'm really glad we did that, and we've got this looks pretty boss when we open that up. So we can see that there's something going on in there. Anyways, we got our pilot and stuff. So I'm really glad with the result. I'm really happy because the legs, we can add more as we want. But I'm really glad that we did what we did so far, because it's really starting to come together, I think. Now, next phase, before we go any further with any more of the weathering. Now, this is all markers, other than a little bit of a wash that I used a little bit here as a filter. This I did all with the markers. And if you'd like to see how we've started to sort of experiment and get this sort of finish, I'm going to be doing this next time. But first, I want to get prepped and get the markings on, and that's going to be next. So these are the vinyl stickers that come with the kit, and they're just an adhesive vinyl sticker, and we don't want to use those because we do have decals. But the decals that we do have are for the Perfect Grade Unleashed. So placement, and they're different, like they're not the same. So we have a little bit of a different setup. But the structure of the Gundam is exactly the same. So I'm going to whip out the instructions, because I do have the Perfect Grade Unleashed, and get the instructions out so that we can follow these and get the decals on. So if you'd like to join me for the rest of this build, which is going to be basically the final, I think, decals, the markings, and the weathering, and I think this boy is going to be looking pretty boss, then please join me. But until then, live, love, laugh, plan something for the future, because that's when I'm going to see you. And until then, cheers.